this community for all of us. Think about education for today and tomorrow, but to also have vision, execute, and deliver a public school system which meets the needs and aspirations of our community, for our children, and the future of Bermuda. Mr. Speaker, in March of this year, I informed my honorable colleague that the long-term objective strategy 5.3.5 Plan 2022 will be the guide for our plan to phase out middle school and introduce signature schools and realign the public education system. This strategy states, and I quote, to ensure college and career readiness, we will review the current structure of schools, primary, middle, senior, and revise for the maximum student success, including the consideration of special school designs to meet unique student needs or interests. Mr. Speaker, to deliver the government and the community's wishes for public education, the Ministry of Education is currently overseeing the most substantive change in Bermuda's public education system for 20 years. Such immense change cannot be achieved in haste, nor can it be realized without consistent collaboration, critical and other stakeholders. It is those who make up our education system and broader community who will help facilitate and support this future-minded transformation. As Plan 2022 was developed with extensive community input, the plan to remake our school system will undergo similar levels of involvement for any changes are made. To quote our Honorable Premier, when asked about education reform in this House, I will quote, we will measure not once, not twice, but three times before we cut. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to update honorable members and the public that despite COVID-19, the planning and redevelopment work, phase out middle schools, and introduce signature schools within a two-tier education system is continuing. Since my last update in March, a prototype for the future of the Bermuda public school system has been developed. Some will be familiar with the use of this term as it reflects the approach undertaken during the development of Plan 2022. This prototype will be built upon and fine-tuned with further collaboration and engagement with stakeholders who will deliver on our new education system and the constituents who will be its beneficiaries. Using design thinking and prototypes allows us to design and test the proposals, improve upon them, and test them again to produce changes that meet the promises of the government and the current and future needs for our community. Mr. Speaker, the first prototype has been shared with critical stakeholders over the last 2 months. Their feedback has been invaluable and has been used as a resource as the prototype evolves. The prototype being used for the next stages of the plan development. During these last 2 months, we presented the prototype to the Cabinet, the PLP Caucus, the Opposition, the Board of Education, the Department of Education staff, preschool administrators and principals, preschool, primary, middle, and senior school teaching staff, executive members of PTAs for primary, middle, senior schools, and our special school, Dame Marjorie Bean Hope Academy, executive boards of the BUT, BPSU, and the BIU, executive members of boards for all aided schools and the Bermuda Educators Council. Mr. Speaker, presentations are also planned for school custodians and administrative assistants, a cross-section of students, parents, and other members of our community. Mr. Speaker, this prototype is a result of 2 years of engagement, collaboration, and data collection, as well as study of best international practices for improving the quality and delivery of education for all. We have a vision that sees changes to the education structure with the removal of middle school, the introduction of signature schools, and the absolute movement to new ways of teaching to better match the ways in which our children can and do learn. Mr. Speaker, this prototype begins with the end in mind, meaning that the elements of the prototype are consistently guided by the kinds of graduates the public school system will develop, along with parents, peers, mentors, and community partners. To achieve this, the continued prototype work will look specifically at a two-tier education framework which removes middle schools and introduces signature schools, a two-tier education system designed to increase education options for all students, including tailored education and support for young people with special, additional, or alternative education needs. More and more students who would have attended middle school will at younger ages have access to City and Guilds and NCCAR certifications, expanded dual enrollment with the senior schools, and employability skills. This is being developed to expose our students to a broader variety of potential life interests at an earlier age. Mr. Speaker, signature schools who are on the pathway to preparing for post-signature school students who are on the pathway to prepare for post-secondary education, training, the world of work, and community life. Will participate in cooperative education, work placement, apprenticeships, internships, dual enrollment at the Bermuda College, NCCER and City and Guild certification, signature certifications, leadership and employability skills, music examinations, and other certifications. This is not only to prepare students for post-secondary education, training, and employment, but to help our students to grow into the world as thinkers, creators, entrepreneurs, and citizens who will lead and further develop the Bermudian society. Mr. Speaker, the curricula is being re-examined to develop more internationally recognized curricular options. Young people deserve more diverse and flexible options for learning anywhere and at any time. The prototype also calls for enhanced educator qualifications as we look not only to transform the structure of the system, but our approach to the profession of teaching and methods of teacher practice. Educators entering the system will be expected to possess or obtain qualifications, experiences, and competencies that meet international standards, certifications, BEC license, pass a locally created version of the praxis exam, international certifications that will be recertified every 5 years, ICT certification, leadership development, a 21st century evaluation system to evaluate our teachers, professional courses separate from professional development required every 2 years, SCARS, TCI, MTS, and restorative circles trained, and be fit to work with children. Embedded within the teaching profession is a commitment to growth and lifelong learning. Therefore, the Department of Education and the Bermuda Educators Council will work with educators to develop pathways for improved professional learning during the transformation process. Mr. Speaker, our system also requires modern, fit-for-purpose facilities to support the new education structure and the delivery of modern curricula and high-quality teaching. Therefore, much of the prototype work will look at what facilities are required to support 21st century and real-world and authentic learning experiences for students in all of our schools. Our prototype details the removal of middle schools and the remaking and design of our current system. However, this work cannot be done by the Department of Education and our consultant innovation unit alone. The prototype calls for the development and recruitment of school redesign teams. The persons who will serve on these teams will be predominantly teachers and leaders within the public school system and will engage parents, students, businesses, cultural and community organizations, other learning institutions, and relevant government departments. Mr. Speaker, additionally, the ministry and the Department of Education will collaborate with and support school design teams to test the feasibility and viability of the new models of teaching and learning, along with the assessment practices for schools that will form the new two-tier structure. They'll also develop and implement the workforce and technology strategies that best support and enable the redesigned schools and redesigned system. Mr. Speaker, Plan 2022 Adaptive Strategy 5.1 calls for us to, and I quote, develop a governance structure that both holds the Department of Education accountable to citizens through a Board of Education and that provides the department greater autonomy for fiscal, human, and operational decisions. Some will read into this as a call for an education authority as detailed by Bermuda First. This idea is very much still being considered, and the discussions with Bermuda First are still ongoing. However, the current governance structure will be evaluated. The best structure for our system will be determined and presented in due course. Mr. Speaker, I've repeatedly referred to a prototype when referring to the future of the Bermuda public school system. I've also stated that we recognize the need for collaboration and consultation to ensure that we have a system that the Bermuda public have asked for through Plan 2022. In the coming months, we will begin more extensive consultation to gather the public's feedback. When we have a prototype, as we do, that talks about the reduction or consolidation of schools, repurposing of schools, and realigning the system, and consultation is required and consultation will happen. However, rest assured, the phasing out of middle schools is a promise that the Bermuda government views as an absolute and will deliver on. Mr. Speaker, we will make sweeping changes on how we educate our children. We will phase out the middle schools and introduce signature schools that will have curricula to support professions required by the Bermudian workforce, including the trades and entrepreneurs needed in Bermuda and beyond, now and in the future, including what is needed for those students with special needs. Mr. Speaker, we will transform our current system from a three-tier to a two-tier system based on best practices and genuine input from the Bermuda community. Our goal is to provide our children with the structure, resources, and support to enable them to participate in, profit from, and lead the 21st century economy of Bermuda. Mr. Speaker, I ask honorable members and Bermuda as a whole to join us as we transform the Bermuda public school system. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.